Hey, welcome back, everybody. Another episode here, a video for Banish the Doubt. I bow to the light in you. This is George McNamara. Welcome back to another video. Now, I say I bow to the light in you. Some people ask, well, what do you mean by that, George? We are the light that is inside us. It is who we truly are. It is this entity. See, I'm going to share with you in this video what I learned from an interview. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cell biologist, was interviewed recently. I watched it and I took down some notes, and specifically a study that he did, so that we can kind of get a better understanding as to who we truly are, who we think we are versus who we truly are in this world, this life that we live in. So we are made up of mostly light. That's why I say I bow to the light that is in you. This is why you'll hear certain things. If you ever heard this growing up, and you can comment down below, that person just lights up the room when they come in. Whenever we're around, they're around that person. That person lights up the room. I can feel the energy around that person, the energy from that person, and conversely, the other side. It's because of what we are, what we put forth, this energy that we put forth. We'll talk about women who are newly pregnant, right? We'll hear other females say they've got that glow, right? Somebody who's newly married in the honeymoon phase. See, so everything sort of evolves around light. That's why I say I bow to the light that is inside of you, that emanates from you. You can't see it, but I can see it. So start to think in terms of that. So let me get into this video, or into this interview. Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist. So he says, we are made up of 50 trillion cells. We are not a single entity. We are a community. Our bodies are a community of 50 trillion cells. And we lose hundreds of billions of cells each day. If you would think, you would start to start counting to 1 billion, it would take you years. So I mean, these are just magnificent numbers. But we also create hundreds of billions of cells every single day. And what Dr. Lipton did was, years ago, back in the 60s, he was in a lab and he decided to test stem cells. You and I are made of stem cells. And stem cell is just another word for an embryo. See, when we were born, we were no longer an embryo. So scientists refer to it as a stem cell. So what Dr. Lipton did was he put a single cell in a petri dish, and every so many hours, the cell will multiply 2, 4, 8, 16, and so on. And what he said was, after about a week, this petri dish had 30,000 cells that had multiplied. And what he did was he took 3 petri dishes and he manipulated or changed the culture medium. That is where the cells lived in. So he put 10,000 in each of the petri dishes. So you had 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Now, the other thing about these stem cells was that they are all exactly the same. The cells are exactly the same. The only thing different is the environment, if you will, or the culture medium that they existed in. Okay? So, move on to the next set of notes that I took here. So we have genetically identical cells, 30,000. They all come from the same parent. Okay, so He has 30,000, 10,000 each. He said, and what he found after his study, after he examined the cells, was that uh, in Petri dish A, the cells formed muscle. And in Petri dish B, again, different culture medium, a different environment, those cells formed bone. And the third and final Petri dish, again, a different environment, different culture medium. And culture medium was basically the chemistry um, of blood. They mimicked the same chemistry as blood. And so that's the culture medium because cells grow in blood. So the third, or Petri dish C, the cells formed fat cells. Now, here's why this is very important. Three different versions of culture mediums, all genetically identical cells. The only difference was the chemistry of the culture medium. But here it is. Here is the difference. Now, what we were led to believe going back into the 60s was that genes control who we are, or genes control us. If somebody had, let's say, cancer, you're back in the 60s, let's say your parents or grandparents, there was cancer in the family. What we were led to believe, what science was telling us back then, was that, well, cancer runs in your family, right? Or heart disease runs in your family. Strokes, diabetes runs in the family. Genes turn on and off. He said the old science said that, but the new science, epigenetics, so old science was genetics, did that. Epigenetics, epi meaning above. So we call this, why we call the skin in science calls the skin epidermis. The skin is above the dermis, or epi. That's why I call it epidermis, the skin. They refer to that. So it's above the dermis. Okay. There's a control above the skin, or above the dermis. Under our skin, we have the original culture medium, which is blood. And again, what the study did was it mimicked the blood. The blood composition controls the genes. So the composition of the blood, so the environment in those petri dishes controls the genes. And if that's the case, then he asks, well, then who or what controls the composition of the blood? Right? So the cells are in the blood, the cells multiply based on the chemistry of the blood. So the three different environments, three different outcomes. But why? So he said what he found was that the brain controls the chemistry of the blood. So then what chemistry, the question was asked, should the brain put in the blood? So if the brain is controlling the chemistry of the blood, then what type of chemistry should the brain put in the blood? And the answer was, and here's the part, whatever picture we are putting in our brain or in the mind, the brain is going to translate that into complementary chemistry and release it into the blood. And our cells, so the petri dishes, will conform to the picture in our mind. So again, whatever picture, whatever thought we're putting in our mind, that then has a influence on the blood, the chemistry in the blood, and that blood then goes down into our cells. And our cells conform with that picture in our mind. This is why we can say things like, I could feel the anger welling up inside of me when I see a certain person, or a person says something and it, we call, triggers us, right? Because the person says something or the other person's energy has an effect, and it elicits, right, a picture in our mind. And then that has this effect chemically within us. So again, going back to what we started with, if the old thinking was, well, our family is just genetically connected to cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, strokes, whatever else, then we're victims, right? That was the old thinking. But the new thinking, the new science, epigenetics, says that no, as above, so below. As we think, so therefore we control, our thinking controls the chemical makeup within our bodies, and our cells create. We talked about hundreds of billions die, hundreds of billions are made, but the cells live in the blood. So the cells are being created by our thinking. We are literally creating our lives chemically just by the way we think. Okay? So think good thoughts, good outcome. Think fearful thoughts, not so good. So then, what are you thinking? Watching this video, what are you thinking in this moment? What have you been thinking leading up to this moment? I'm about 11 and a half minutes into this. If you're new, it's your first time watching this video and you like what you're seeing, do us a favor, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button, because that's going to help with the algorithm. And the stronger the algorithm, the more people who are going to see these videos, and the more people hear about Dr. Lipton and hear about these findings, the healthier they're going to be. And then by virtue of how healthy they are, they're going to attract more of that health into their life. Yes? So, what are you thinking? So consciousness then is changing the chemistry. We just established that. And then the chemistry complements the consciousness. You see how it works? So if you think love, you're going to release chemicals into the blood. And those chemicals are going to be dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin that bonds us to the loved one, vasopressin, which makes us more attractive, and of course then growth hormone. So think about this. Somebody who's in love, right? You meet somebody and you fall in love and you have that glow about you. That's the chemical reaction inside your blood, inside of you. So it's just showing right through. That's the chemical reaction. The chemistry in the blood controls the genetics and the behavior. The chemistry within the blood. That's where it's coming from, how you're thinking. Okay, let's continue. And by the way, you may want to comment down below and maybe share some stories or share something how this video is, helping you or what you're getting from it. I'd love to hear your stories. I do hear them from time to time. And, a lot of the people who I coach talk to me about how they feel. They feel lighter. They just feel different after our coaching sessions. And it's not anything that I'm saying. It's really it's eliciting these pictures in their mind. And when they have those aha moments, because see, the answers are already inside of you. They're inside of me. They're inside of everybody. All we do with coaching is we help to maybe lift the veil or clear some of the fog between what we're seeing and what that is there. See, everything that you desire is already here. You just can't see it. But through videos like this and through listening to a Dr. Lipton or a Dr. Dispenza or a Greg Braden, I can go on and on with different people. We start to lift the fog. It's kind of like seeing the trees. Forest, there's fog. You're driving, let's say. And as the fog lifts, you're like, oh, now I see the trees. The trees are your desires. They're already there. That life, that healthier of life. Okay? So, now the opposite of love is we'll think fear. If we think fear, we're going to release into our bloodstream stress hormones, chemicals that regulate the immune system. We're going to affect the immune system in a negative way because of those fearful or doubtful thoughts, which is why I call my channel Banish the Doubt, banish the fear, banish the doubt, change the way we think. The picture I'm holding changes into chemistry, and then that chemistry then controls the genetics and the behavior. Fear chemistry shuts down growth. Fear chemistry shuts down growth. We just established that love chemistry supports growth hormone. Okay? So, one of the things we hear about today a lot in society is this health crisis. We have this health crisis. I believe I heard a statistic. I believe it's somewhere north of 85%, and maybe even higher than that, maybe higher than 90% of people who go into a health clinic, doctor's office, what have you, a urgent care center, they go there primarily because of an emotional issue, not physical sickness. It's an emotional issue. And I'm going to establish here in a second how we are the ones. I'm the one who created the cancer within inside of me. Nobody else, nothing outside. I'm the one. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. So, health crisis, less than 1%, Dr. Lipton says, of disease is even connected to genes. Less than 1% is even connected to our genes. The consciousness of the individual is selecting the gene. Again, so our thoughts, we select the gene. Think of a gene as like an architect, okay? And I'm sorry, think of a gene as a blueprint. So a blueprint, you need an architect to look at the blueprint. And the architect who can alter the readout of the genes is the consciousness. So the gene is the blueprint, and our consciousness then is the architect. We're born to be born with a normal gene. Okay, you could be born with a normal gene. I was, but with a picture that is skewed, which was mine was with a lot of fear. I altered the readout of the genes, and I caused my cancer. Lots of fear growing up from a toxic home, a lot of alcohol, a lot of arguments, a lot of not physical fights, but arguments between my parents, a lot of fear. My father would oftentimes, after arguments, get up and leave, slam the front door and leave the house. That affected me. The picture I had in my mind at the time was, is he coming back? Maybe he's not coming back. Maybe that's it. He left, and he would drive away, and I would be worried about him worried. Lots of fear. That skewed or altered the readout of the genes, and ultimately, through other things in my life, caused cancer. 90%, however, Dr. Lipton says 90% of cancer is not even genetically connected in the family. So we go from then this victim status, this blame, all that, and this changes everything. So how you're thinking right now, about 18 minutes or so, 19 minutes into this video, I'm going to change how I think. I'm becoming more present awareness, consciousness, present awareness. Okay? So people that I've coached have said to me, so what you're saying, George, is I created this cancer? And I just established I did. Other people hear that and say, wait, I'm one? Or like in somebody else who I know, I created the heart issue that I have. Somebody else, the strokes that I had, or I think it was multiple strokes. And they say, well, no. And I tell them, well, no, that's a victim status, and it's okay. See, because in my case and in theirs, what happened in the past was when we had no knowledge or awareness of how things worked, just like myself growing up with my parents. I had no idea how things worked. Okay? So blame, victim, guilt doesn't apply. So no, we're not the victims. We're not blaming others. There is no guilt. There is no blame for ourselves. And that's not even blame for the parents because they didn't understand either. They didn't know this knowledge wasn't around, or maybe it was, but they didn't know about it. There was no YouTube or videos back then. Okay? So, Dr. Lipton says here, this is a very powerful quote. He says, we're not living in an accident, we're living in a manifestation of consciousness. We're not creating our life, the Jesuits say. We're creating the life we were programmed to create. So let me say that again. These two quotes are very powerful quotes. You may want to write them down. We're not living in an accident. We're living in a manifestation of consciousness. And the Jesuits have been telling their followers for over 500 years, we're not creating our life. We are creating the life we were programmed to create. And the Jesuits have also been telling their followers for over 500 years, give me a child from birth until age 7, and I will give you the adult. That's pretty profound. You see, because tying this into what I just established, the first 7 years of your life is the foundation, is the hardwired, is the, like this computer, the operating system that's downloaded, which I mentioned, we're not even aware. So those first 7 years, we're not aware what's going on. We're just observing what is going on. But 95% of our adult life is controlled by those first 7 years. And 60% of that 95% of that programming is disempowering, self-sabotaging, and of limiting beliefs. 60% of it. Because again, think about your house. You're growing up. And think about 95% of your day. And I'll prove it here. Again, I heard Dr. Lipton talk about this in a different interview. And he says it this way. You're growing up and I have a best friend. I know him, but I also know his parents. Think about somebody that you know, you're friends with, and you also know their parents. Now, think about which parent they're like, right? Are they like one of their parents? Every time I ask this question, everybody I coach or I talk to says, oh, yep, I know exactly. I have, yep, oh, yeah, and they're just like, and then they fill in the blank. Here's why I bring this up. Because you'll tell them, you're just like you are. And when you do, step back, step away from that person. Because 99.99% of the time, that person's going to react very upset. They're going to get very upset that you're saying this. And they're going to say, I absolutely am not like who you just said. It's precisely what I just mentioned. They can't see it. You can see it. Others can see it, but they can't. It's because we operate on these subconscious programs. It's because we end up with heart disease, cancer in my case, stroke in other people's cases, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis. It's because of what we are putting in our brains and into our bodies that's affecting us. It's those first 7 years. It's the programming that we observed. You see, we didn't understand it, but we operate. So Dr. Joe Dispenza says, by the time we're age 35, we are a memorized set of these programs, these emotional reactions, these habits, these perceptions of how we see ourselves, these assumptions of who we are. And we unconsciously talk about it. Things such as, this always happens to me. If with my luck, things will not work out. We don't even realize we're audibly putting it out there to the universe. In our brain, the chemistry the picture we get in our mind, right? We just established the brain says, okay, that's the chemistry I'm going to put into the blood. And the cells say, okay, well, we're going to create a complementary batch or cocktail of chemicals within our body because that's what you're saying. This is what you're saying you want. Now, you're not consciously saying that, but see, because right here, right behind my eyes, everybody's eyes right here, is our frontal cortex. It's 5% of our brain. It is our conscious thinking. The rest is our subconscious, below conscious. And that rest makes up 95% of how we talk, the words we say, the reactions versus the response. Someone says something, they move their car in front of ours on the highway. We react. See, because whenever we're thinking, we're going. Dr. Lipton says we're going back into our brain. We're going into our subconscious programming. When we are present, when we respond to something, we're present. And that takes practice. That takes a lot of discipline to learn to respond, not react. So this is just some of the things that I heard about in this interview. And if you're looking for some guidance, some direction, some help in areas, you can go to my channel, click on the Coach Geo link, and I'd be happy to work with you and help to uncover a lot of this thinking and help and give you techniques on how we can, with discipline, change and strip away that programming that's been downloaded into us that has led us to points where maybe you know, breakups, divorce, relationships, job loss, whatever it may be. Because ultimately, it's this: the pictures we put in our mind, and how we see ourselves, the perceptions. Here's something to take away from this video, and this is I'll end it with this. In between a stimulus, an event taking place, and our response, there lies a space. And in that space is our freedom. It's our freedom to choose. Whenever we react to this stimulus, whatever it may be, a person says something, a car pulls in front of us, whatever. Whenever we're reacting to that thing, that stimulus is controlling us. When we respond in that space, and that space may only be a millisecond, we maintain control. Okay, that comes right from Victor. He wrote the book, the man I'm thinking about, I can't think of his last name. He wrote the book, A Man's Search for Meaning. That comes right from that book. So again, stimulus, response, or reaction. Reaction is a habitual, it's a subconscious programming. A response is a conscious programming, and that takes discipline. So again, if you're looking for any type of guidance in any area, click on the link and I'd be happy to work with you. But I hope this helped to clear up some things for you. It was a great interview with Dr. Lipton. Have a great day.